In August 2024, NASA's Perseverance rover transmitted an image that was never meant to be seen by the public. The photograph was classified within 6 hours of receipt. The mission team was placed under immediate non-disclosure agreements, and the official mission logs were edited to remove any reference to the coordinates where the image was taken. This is the story of what Perseverance really found in Jezero Crater. This is why 3 NASA scientists resigned without explanation. And this is why no human mission to Mars has been scheduled since that day. The Mars 2020 mission launched on July 30, 2020, with a single objective: search for signs of ancient microbial life in Jezero Crater, a 28-mile-wide impact basin that once held a lake over 3 billion years ago. By August 2024, Perseverance had been operating on Mars for 3.5 years. The rover had collected 38 rock samples, traveled 17 kilometers across the Martian surface, and transmitted over 250,000 images back to Earth. Mission scientist Dr. Elena Vasquez was monitoring the rover's operations from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. It was a routine shift. Sol 1, 247 of the mission. Another day of geological surveys in the western Delta region. Perseverance's autonomous navigation system had flagged an unusual formation approximately 200 meters from its position. The terrain mapping suggested a geometric anomaly, sharp angles where erosion should have created smooth curves. Vasquez authorized the rover to investigate. Standard protocol. They'd found thousands of interesting rock formations over the mission's duration. Most turned out to be natural geological processes, creating coincidentally regular shapes. At 14:23 Coordinated Universal Time on August 12, 2024, Perseverance's Mastcam-Z camera system captured a high-resolution panoramic image of the anomaly. The image took 11 minutes to transmit to Earth, arriving at the Deep Space Network receiving station at 14:34 Coordinated Universal Time. Vasquez was reviewing spectroscopy data when the image appeared on her monitor. She stopped breathing. For several seconds she didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at the screen. Then she reached for the internal communications line and entered a code she had never used before. A code that every mission scientist was given during their initial briefing but told they would likely never need. The code that meant, "We found something." Within 20 minutes, the mission control observation deck had been cleared. Within an hour, the image had been reviewed by NASA's deputy administrator. Within 6 hours, it was classified under national security protocols. And Elena Vasquez, along with 2 other scientists who had seen the image, signed non-disclosure agreements that carried criminal penalties for violation. The official mission log for Sol 1-247 was edited. The entry now read, "Routine geological survey, no significant findings. Rover continuing to waypoint DELTA-7. But 3 copies of the original image had already been made. One by a junior data analyst named Marcus Chen, who had seen the image for approximately 40 seconds before it was locked behind classified access protocols. Chen didn't understand what he was looking at. Not entirely, but he understood enough to know it was important. Important enough that he made a decision that would end his career at NASA. He copied the file to a secure external drive. He waited 3 months. And then he sent it to a journalist he had never met, using an encrypted communication channel with a single message: "They're lying about Mars. Here's proof." The image surfaced briefly on several websites before being removed under DMCA takedown requests. But once something reaches the internet, it never truly disappears. This is that image. And this is what it shows. The photograph shows a rock formation in Jezero Crater's western delta region. At first glance, it appears to be a weathered outcrop, reddish-brown stone partially buried in Martian regolith. But the geometry is wrong. The formation consists of 7 rectangular blocks, each approximately 2 meters in height, arranged in a precise semicircle. The blocks are evenly spaced, exactly 1.3 meters apart, according to the rover's stereoscopic measurements. Natural geological processes don't create even spacing. The surfaces of the blocks show parallel grooves, each roughly 5 centimeters wide, running vertically down the face of the stone. The grooves are too uniform to be erosion patterns, too deliberate. And at the center of the semicircle, partially obscured by windblown sand, there is an indentation. A depression in the ground approximately 3 meters across. Perfectly circular. When Chen released the image, the response from geological experts was immediate and divided. Some insisted it was pareidolia, the human tendency to see patterns where none exist. Weathered basalt columns, they said, similar to the Giant's Causeway in Ireland or the Devil's Postpile in California. But others weren't convinced. Dr. Richard Caldwell, a geologist at the University of Arizona who had worked on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter mission, analyzed the image for 3 days before publishing his findings. The uniform spacing is inconsistent with any known natural formation process, he wrote. Erosion creates irregularity. Volcanic columnar jointing creates hexagonal patterns, not rectangular blocks. And the grooves, those look machined. Machined. The word sent ripples through the scientific community. NASA's official response came 48 hours later, a brief statement from the agency's press office. The image in question shows a geological formation consistent with sedimentary rock deposits in Jezero Crater. The apparent geometric regularity is a result of natural fracturing processes combined with selective viewing angles. Similar formations have been observed in terrestrial desert environments. They released 3 comparison images from Earth: weathered sandstone in Utah, columnar basalt in Iceland, fractured dolomite in Antarctica. The comparison images looked nothing like what Perseverance had found, but the statement accomplished its purpose. The story disappeared from mainstream news coverage within a week. Only the conspiracy theory forums kept discussing it. That should have been the end. But then Marcus Chen disappeared. Chen was last seen leaving his apartment in Pasadena on November 3, 2024. Security footage shows him getting into his car at 7:15 a.m. His vehicle was found 3 days later in a parking structure at Los Angeles International Airport. He never boarded a flight. His bank accounts showed no activity. His phone went to voicemail. His apartment appeared undisturbed. No signs of forced entry, no indication of planned travel. The Pasadena Police Department classified it as a voluntary missing person case. Adults have the right to disappear, they said. No evidence of foul play. But Chen's sister Amy didn't believe it. Her brother had seemed nervous in the weeks before his disappearance. Paranoid, she told investigators. He'd mentioned being followed. Unusual cars parked outside his apartment. Anonymous calls to his phone that disconnected when he answered. He told me he made a mistake, Amy said in a television interview 6 months later. He said if anything happened to him, I should tell people about the photograph, about what they found on Mars. The interview aired on a local Los Angeles station at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, it had been removed from the station's website. The video file was deleted from their archives. The segment was, according to official records, never broadcast. But Amy Chen had made copies. And 2 weeks after the interview, she received a letter. No return address. Postmarked from Washington, D.C. Inside was a single page, printed text, no signature. It read, "Your brother accessed classified information without authorization. He is currently under federal investigation. For your own safety and his, do not pursue this matter further. Destroy all copies of materials he may have sent you. This is your only warning." Amy posted a photograph of the letter on social media. The account was suspended within hours for violating community standards. By this point, the story had taken on a life of its own. Forums dedicated to Mars anomalies exploded with speculation, What had NASA really found? Why was Chen missing? What were they hiding? Some theories were ridiculous. Ancient alien cities, crashed spacecraft, evidence of a living Martian civilization. Others were more measured, unusual geological formations that suggested Mars had been more geologically active more recently than current models predicted. Discoveries that would require rewriting planetary science textbooks. But a few people, scientists, engineers, former NASA contractors, suggested something different. Something more disturbing. They suggested that NASA hadn't just found evidence of past life on Mars. They suggested Mars wasn't as dead as we thought. In March 2025, a former NASA contractor named David Wu posted a detailed analysis on a small scientific forum. Wu had worked on the Mars 2020 mission's imaging systems before his contract ended in 2023. He had seen other photographs from Sol 1, 247. The semicircle image is what leaked, Wu wrote. But Perseverance took 47 photographs during that survey. I saw 12 of them before they were classified. What people don't understand is that the rover didn't just photograph the structure from a distance. It approached to within 15 meters. According to Wu, the close-range images showed details that the distant photograph missed. The grooves on the stone blocks weren't erosion. They were markings. Deliberate patterns. Some appeared to be geometric symbols. Others looked almost linguistic, repeating sequences that suggested information encoding. The circular depression at the center wasn't empty. It contained what Wu described as debris. Fragments of material that didn't match Martian geology. Dark, almost metallic fragments arranged in a radial pattern spreading outward from the center point. It looked, Wu wrote, like something had exploded there. Not recently, maybe thousands of years ago, but the pattern was unmistakable. And there was something else, something in the final photograph Perseverance, transmitted before the mission team redirected it away from the site. In the bottom right corner of one image, partially obscured by a rock outcrop, there was another structure, smaller, roughly cylindrical, approximately 1 meter in height. It was covered in the same Martian dust that coated everything in Jezero Crater. But according to Wu, the spectroscopic analysis showed something impossible. The dust layer was thin, exceptionally thin, consistent with only a few months of accumulation, not millions of years. As if something had recently disturbed the surface. As if something had recently moved. Wu's post was deleted within 3 hours. His account was banned. Within a week, his home internet service was terminated due to what the provider called, quote, violations of acceptable use policy. But screenshots of his post had already spread across multiple platforms. NASA never issued a statement addressing Wu's claims. They didn't acknowledge them at all. Instead, they announced that Perseverance would be focusing its mission on a different area of Jezero Crater. The Western Delta region had been thoroughly surveyed, they said. Time to move on to more promising sites. The rover never returned to those coordinates. And the classified photographs from Sol 1, 247 remained locked behind security protocols that required multiple levels of authorization to access. But 6 months later, in September 2025, something changed. The Mars Sample Return Mission, a multi-billion-dollar effort planned since 2013 to bring Martian rocks back to Earth, was quietly postponed. No new launch date was announced. The official reason given, budgetary constraints and technical challenges. But 3 of the mission's senior scientists resigned within weeks of the announcement. None of them gave interviews. None of them explained why. In December 2025, Elena Vasquez broke her silence. She didn't speak to journalists. She didn't hold a press conference. She simply posted a statement on her personal website, which had previously been inactive for years. The statement was brief. I can no longer in good conscience remain silent about what I witnessed during the Mars 2020 mission. On August 12, 2024, Perseverance documented evidence that fundamentally challenges our understanding of Mars's history. I am bound by legal agreements that prevent me from discussing specifics, but I believe the public has a right to know that significant discoveries have been made and deliberately withheld. I resigned from NASA not because of disagreement over scientific interpretation, but because of disagreement over transparency. Science belongs to humanity, not to governments. What we found suggests we are not the first technological civilization to exist in this solar system. I cannot say more without facing legal consequences. But I can say this: Mars is not what we thought it was. And we should be very, very careful about sending humans there. The statement remained online for 6 hours before the website went offline. It returned the next day with a new message. Previous content removed at author's request. Vasquez herself could not be reached for comment. Her phone number had been disconnected. Her social media accounts were deleted. Her university email address bounced back as invalid. Friends reported that she had left her apartment in Pasadena abruptly, telling them she was taking a sabbatical. She gave no destination, made no plans to return. Her last known communication was an email to her sister that read, "Don't worry about me. I need some time away. I'll explain everything when I can." That was January 2026. No one has heard from Elena Vasquez since. And Marcus Chen? Still missing. His case remains open with Pasadena police. No leads, no evidence of his whereabouts. Just 2 NASA scientists who saw something on Mars and then vanished. The Mars 2020 mission continues. Perseverance is still operational, still transmitting images, still collecting samples. But it operates now in the northern regions of Jezero Crater, far from the western delta, far from the coordinates where the semicircle structure was photographed. The classified images from Sol 1-247 remain classified. Freedom of Information Act requests have been denied on grounds of national security. NASA's official position has not changed. The formation was geological, natural, nothing unusual. The Mars sample return mission remains postponed indefinitely. And there are no current plans for human missions to Mars. NASA's Artemis program focuses on the Moon. Private companies talk about Mars, but no launch dates have been set. It's been 18 months since that photograph was taken. 18 months since Perseverance found something in Jezero Crater. In that time, the rover's mission has been quietly modified. It no longer explores. It surveys, it observes, it monitors. As if NASA isn't looking for signs of ancient life anymore. As if they're watching for signs of current activity. The official Mars mission objectives make no mention of this. But orbital reconnaissance of Jezero Crater has increased by 300%. Satellites photograph the region daily now. And the high-resolution images remain classified. Because something is happening in Jezero Crater. Something that requires constant observation. And whatever it is, NASA has decided we're not ready to know about it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The truth about Mars remains classified. The scientists who saw it have disappeared or gone silent. If you want to explore more covered-up discoveries from space, check out the playlist below. New horror sci-fi stories every Monday and Thursday. This was What the Mars Rover Really Found in 2024.